How to Be an Enlightened Time Manager. A few years ago, while on a lecture tour, I stumbled across a short essay on the subject of time. I liked it so much that I want to share it with you. Time is the inevitable raw material of existence. Everything is possible with it. Without it, nothing. The supply of time is truly a daily miracle, an affair genuinely astonishing when one considers it. You wake up in the morning and lo, your purse is magically filled with 24 hours of the unmanufactured tissue of the universe of your life. It is the most precious of possessions, so precious that it is given to you only one day at a time. And no one receives either more or less than you receive. In the realm of time, there is no aristocracy of wealth and no aristocracy of intellect. Genius is never rewarded by even an extra hour, and there is no punishment. Waste this most precious commodity as much as you will, and the supply will never be withheld from you. Moreover, you cannot draw on the future. Impossible to get into debt! You can only waste the passing moment. You cannot waste tomorrow. It is kept for you. How to Be an Enlightened Time Manager. I have said the affair is a miracle. Is it not? You have this 24 hours of daily time to live. Out of it you want to spin health, pleasure, money, contentment, respect, and the evolution of your immortal soul. Its right use, its most effective use, is a matter of the highest urgency and of the most thrilling actuality. All depends on that. Your happiness, the elusive prize that you are all clutching for, my friend, depends on that. If one cannot arrange that an income of 24 hours shall exactly cover all proper items of expenditure, one does not manage one's whole life indefinitely. We shall never have any more time. We have always had all the time there is. How to be an enlightened time manager. It's one thing to live aimlessly, like tumbleweed in a light desert wind, enjoying the uncertainty and spontaneity that accompanies such a life. If they have a job, it's usually a temporary one because they rebel against any structure, any attempt to harness time. The typical lament would go, I've been late all my life. I can't ever seem to get a handle on my time. The heck with it. I'll just take it easy and go with the flow. Is this a worthwhile attitude? That's for you to decide. It's your life. But if you find yourself attracted to this mode of living, be conscious that this attitude of drifting along the highways and byways of life can rob you of any chance for real progress. You can't drift your way to a better life. The 9 to 5 time manager, another group of people, perhaps the majority, has adopted an attitude about time that falls somewhere between the drifter and the workaholic. These people seem to function best with a moderate level of stress. They can handle only so many projects at a time. They like their evenings and weekends free, to smell the flowers all through life. A man works for a company, then decides to own his own business, and soon finds his responsibilities overwhelming. As he sees the sun come up before anyone else and set long after the place is empty, he thinks, I wouldn't have watched the clock for someone else. Let them wait for the glory and the heartbreak. Is he wrong? Of course not. Not for him. His only 2 perceived options are either working around the clock or working a 9 to 5 job. So you'll soon see when we discuss the 4th attitude about time, these are not the only options. When he tried to run his own business, he exceeded the maximum level of time commitment he can handle comfortably. And so he decides to walk away from the challenge, convinced that for him the price of success is too high. How to be an enlightened time manager. Not everyone can handle the high price of success. This not only feels true in pursuing an independent business, it's equally true of many corporate executives I know. Here is a story which illustrates that some people should put limits on the price they pay. A little girl asks her mother, why doesn't Daddy play with me? He comes home from work, and right away he goes to the office. And as soon as dinner is over, he's off to the apartment. I want to play with my daddy. Doesn't he love me anymore? So Mom, fighting back tears of her own loneliness and pain, tries to explain, honey, your daddy is very busy. He loves you very much, and that is why he works so hard. He has so much work to do in his office that he has to bring some of it home. The little girl thinks for a moment about what her mother just told her. Suddenly, her eyes brighten and she says, well, if he can't get all his work done at the office, why don't they just put him in a slower group? Why not, indeed? There's a limit a person should pay for financial and career success, and that limit comes when your most important values are sacrificed in the all or nothing pursuit of success. I know, too, I have sweat after some things in my life, only to find out later that I paid too much. Had I known what they were going to cost me beforehand, I never would have paid the high price. The workaholic, the old-fashioned concept of success, as typified by a character in a famous play, is the kind which keeps a person working longer and harder. For the workaholic, there is never enough work. One works 10, 12, 14 hours a day. The workaholic will take 2 jobs working from dawn to dusk. Satisfaction only comes when stress is high, enjoyment is denied, and more tasks are finished. We all know the results of this kind of behavior. While often eliciting admiration from outsiders, the workaholic's behavior can result in the estrangement of family, loss of health, and eventually a crisis of values. Incidentally, the workaholic is not always the one who makes the most money. That's because he or she is often more task-oriented than goal-oriented. If I had to choose between the 3 attitudes about time, which I have so far described, I would be hard-pressed to choose the superior one. That fortunately, there is one other attitude about time which I consider superior. The enlightened time manager, the 4th and most enlightened approach to time, borrows from the other 3. The enlightened time manager budgets time for every aspect of his life. He even budgets time for drifting by scheduling time to do nothing. Like the 9 to 5 person, he knows to put limits on work and to have quality time for other personal values, such as family. And like the workaholic, he would never be afraid to work long hours, but only when necessary. What makes the enlightened time manager enlightened is his ability to schedule himself for no more hours than the 9 to 5 and still get more done than the workaholic. How does he do that? Simply by working smarter, not always longer, by focusing on more productivity per hour instead of putting in more hours. Enlightened time managers look for new ways to multiply their productivity. In other words, they develop wealth by the use of leverage. Leverage allows you to multiply your resources many times over. For example, you can leverage money by borrowing it to purchase real estate or to build a business. You can leverage time by multiplying your efforts through the recruitment of an expanding sales force or by delegating less productive work to competent employees. The Master off TMY. Here's a key to understanding the management of time. Either you run your day or your day will run you. It's really a matter of deciding to be in charge. You see, it's much too easy to relinquish control, to hand over the reins of authority and lose the ability to direct time. One of the best ways to start regaining control of our time is to learn the most effective time management word. Do you know what it is? The word is no. Learn to say no. I still have difficulty with this one. It's so easy to say yes to everything, to be a nice person. The result of saying yes is that we spend long hours trying to get ourselves out of obligations we never should have agreed to in the first place. It's one of the great time wasters. I finally learned to say no nicely. How? This is what I do. I say no. I don't think I can. But if that changes, I'll give you a call. Now, isn't it better to call people with good news and let them know you can do it after all? Try it, it works! A friend of mine is fond of saying, don't let your mouth overload your back. Another way to regain control of your day is this: when you work, work, and when you play, play. Mixing the two never works. All you end up doing is cheating yourself both ways. If you work and play at the same time, you'll miss the joy that comes from great accomplishment and the complete release. That is the gift of pure play. Find out when you are at your most energetic. If you are most productive early in the morning, take advantage of this by scheduling your biggest projects as the first order of the day. For example, if your career involves persuading people, arrange to schedule appointments over breakfast. But if the opposite is true for you and you have a hard time remembering your name until lunchtime, schedule your most demanding business activities for the afternoon and evening. Next, analyze your habits. For example, if you're not good at keeping your paperwork up to date, or if you've promised yourself for years to keep better records and balance the checkbook, and you still haven't done it, accept it and get someone to help you. You're not likely to change. Your weaknesses don't have to harm you if you learn to delegate responsibilities. This, too, is part of creative time management. A few years ago, my staff came to the conclusion that I am a poor courier. Because I travel constantly, they would often ask me to deliver documents to people in the city to which I was going. Sure, no problem. I'd reply as I absent-mindedly put the papers in my coat pocket. I recall several times hearing about these undelivered documents from my dry cleaners. After a while, my staff approached me as if I were a 5-year-old. On one occasion, they said, "This document has to go to a major city. Will you be sure to deliver it this time?" I said, "Of course, you can count on me." Hey, I'm not flaky. Needless to say, the document was still in my briefcase when I returned. So now the word is out. Every new employee is indoctrinated by my staff. Don't give the chairman anything to deliver. He's good at a lot of things, but he's a poor courier. Make other arrangements. And that's my point. There is nothing shameful about admitting that you aren't good at everything, as long as you are wise enough not to let your weaknesses stop you from accomplishing your goals. Indeed, knowing oneself is a crucial aspect of time management. The telephone, we have all learned to take the telephone for granted. It's so common today that instead of having one in every home, we now have a phone in every room, and soon there will be one in every car. And yet, few of us have taken the time to analyze how to use the telephone for maximum effectiveness. Thus, we need to recognize that while it has incredible potential for efficiency, the telephone also can be one of the most disruptive time wasters in our lives. You see, just as the telephone is a remarkable tool for you, it is also a remarkable tool for everyone else. Just as you have the ability to reach others in seconds, so do others have the ability to reach you instantly. This reality can play havoc with any daily plan or routine. Therefore, make sure the telephone is there primarily for your convenience. Gain control over who can reach you and when. If you have the luxury of having a secretary, train him or her to screen your phone calls effectively, or use an answering machine so that you can return phone calls at your convenience. Remember also that the telephone allows others to control your time, even at home. That means that unless you're careful, others can also intrude on your family and leisure time. Don't let that happen. During social times with friends or family, find a way to avoid answering the telephone. You can use an answering service, an answering machine, or you can simply pull out the plug. Your family and friends are too important to have the ever insistent ringing of the telephone monopolize the time you've reserved for them. In addition to controlling your incoming phone calls, there is a simple way to better manage your outgoing calls. Have an agenda. All of us waste time and money on inefficient phone conversations. Have you ever heard yourself saying, "Let's see, there was something else I wanted to talk with you about. I just can't think of it right now. I'll have to call you back." We've all said that at one time or another. It's a great time waster, and it also appears unprofessional. Solution: before every phone call, write down the key points you want to cover. It will make each conversation more effective, shorter, and more professional. It will also give you a record of each call. Should you have to recall a telephone conversation, you'll have the information in front of you. For example, you can say, "How are you doing on those 4 things we talked about the other day?" And should the person reply, "What 4 things? We didn't talk about that," you can calmly show them your written record of your conversation. Time-effective organization: we all do things as a result of long-standing habits. This becomes a wasteful luxury, however, when we want to be more efficient. So take the time to analyze your work procedures. Is your filing method up to date? What about your bookkeeping? Today, there are many efficient ways to increase productivity through electronic means. Our age has brought with it tremendous possibilities for processing more information faster. You might want to take advantage of some of them. In my office, I have a computer that can do the most amazing things and save a great deal of time. In addition, I also have a portable machine that I can use when traveling. After entering the information, I merely transfer it via a modem to my main computer. What a time saver! Of course, these new electronic marvels can cause time loss as well. Millions have purchased computers in order to balance their checkbooks or keep telephone numbers. That's like getting into a car and driving over to visit your next door neighbors. So do analyze carefully how to use these new electronic tools. And if your business is more sophisticated, have an expert help you. Remember, you don't need to be good at everything if you have others cover your weaknesses. Asking the right questions when managing people: one of the greatest time savers is asking questions, more specifically, asking the right questions. In behavioral psychology, we learn that everything is a result of something else. And when a problem arises, it is usually a clue that a deeper problem lies beneath the surface. The best way to get to the bottom of things is to not jump to conclusions, but to ask questions. If an employee isn't making sales, we could say, "Okay, we need to give them a lecture about making sales." Or maybe we should ask their supervisor, "Why isn't this person making sales?" The supervisor might say, "They aren't making enough calls." So we dig further. Why aren't they making enough calls? And we are told it's because they don't start their day early enough. I suppose we could stop here and try to motivate them to start earlier. But instead, we ask one more question: why isn't this person starting their day earlier? Now, we've finally gotten to the heart of the issue. Perhaps they are having a personal problem. Perhaps it's not their sales skills that need improvement. The real causes to important problems are usually buried several layers deep. By becoming good at asking the right questions, you can save yourself enormous time by getting to the root of problems a lot faster. How to be an enlightened time manager for your way as of Tai Kenki and Owen PPR. One of the greatest tools for successful time management is having the ability to think on paper. Building a successful enterprise is like building a house. You visualize the ideas, put them on paper, and execute them. In my company, we have a saying, Opirati from de human from to UGHT. Building a day also requires thinking on paper. It's just about over when a person wakes up in the morning and says, let's see, what shall I do today? It's too late. About the best thing that person can do is take the rest of the day off and start planning the next day, the next week, the next month. Thinking on paper is a creative process. There is much more to it than just making a to-do list. In fact, there are 4 different but essential methods that you should use to plan your life, your journal. In my lectures and intensive seminars, I spend a great deal of time promoting the use of journals. I do so because it's my conviction that they are invaluable tools for the serious students of successful living. A journal is a gathering place for all the good information and wisdom that comes your way. Good ideas can originate from almost anywhere. Perhaps you may hear a particularly meaningful sermon, or you may read a bit of information you can use. You might even think of a great idea while driving. The point is, don't good ideas you. A great idea can change your life if you capture it. Have a journal with you at all times, no matter where you are. A project book, as ambitious and busy as you are, you have many projects on which you're working and people with whom you're dealing. Busy people like you often feel as if they're jugglers who must keep all the plates spinning at the same time. It's not easy. One of the best ways to stay in control is to get a project book, a ring binder with tabs in it. If you're working with people, allot a separate section in your binder to each individual. Under each person's tab, keep all pertinent information about them. Note each person's performance, family history, goals, strengths, needs, or anything else you consider relevant. As a manager, you may also want to have information such as sales records or performance charts. This way, should you need to evaluate performance, you have concrete, usable information. Now, depending on your particular business or profession, you may also want to tab each office or department, or you may want to categorize items project by project. That's up to you. The key is to centralize all data so that you can focus on it without having to spend wasted hours hunting for information in countless forgotten files. This concept of having a project book will also work for your personal affairs. For example, you can keep tabs on each one of your children. Does keeping information about your children sound a bit cold? Then let me ask you, do you remember your child's latest report card? If so, how does it compare to the one before? What event did your child ask you to attend? Do you have it written down? Remember the last meaningful one conversation the two of you had. What was your child's main concern? You see, children remember all interactions with their parents. Unfortunately, we as parents are often preoccupied and inattentive. Keeping a separate section on each child can always remind us of the essentials. Naturally, your personal financial affairs will also benefit from this system by allowing you to refer at a glance to all your investments, insurance policies, and the like. Now, do you really need a journal or a project book to get by? Of course not. If all you want is to get by, none of this really matters. But for those of you on the journey to wealth and happiness, these techniques can accelerate your progress beyond belief. A calendar, another method of organizing your thoughts on paper, is by using a daily calendar. Now, when I talk about a calendar, I don't mean the kind that barely gives you enough space to write in your appointments. The kind I mean is a daily log of your appointments and schedules. But it's a lot more. It has a place to keep track of business expenses, meeting results, phone conversations, and to-do lists. Your daily log can also be used as a gathering place for those daily or weekly highlights you wish to log into your journal or project book. Think of it as the central location from which you process all your information of the day, the week, the month, and even the year. A game plan can make all the difference in the world with respect to how your game of life turns out. The term game plan is ironic because even though we seem to understand the importance of mapping out a strategy for a sports game, few of us take the time to make a game plan for our lives. Here's the first and most important rule for your life's game plan: duo and start because each day is a priceless mosaic in your lifetime strategy for wealth and happiness. Always plan your day before you start, and do it every day. Yes, I know all this writing can be tedious, But remember, value is the fruitful result of effort, not of hope.